So we just talked about this. But if we use humans as an example, normal human cells have 46 chromosomes, 23 from each parent. All right, so now we're talking about genetics. So Mendel came up with his conclusions. And so here's sort of a summary. Okay? The factors that Mendel saw, that he said two contribute to each trait, one from each parent. Today we call them genes. So we might say, you inherited a gene for your blood type, one from your mother and one from your father. And the genes you inherited from them determine your blood type. So Mendel called them factors. Today we call them genes. And oftentimes, these genes come in sort of two forms. A dominant form, or the other version we call the recessive form. And so what that means is if a gene is dominant, you could think of it as sort of the stronger form. And the weaker form, the one that can be hidden, we call the recessive gene. When we're talking about genetics, we'll often use letters as symbols for different characteristics. And when we're referring to a dominant gene, we write a capital letter as its symbol. And what do you think we do with a recessive gene? Lowercase. For example, the gene for height of a pea plant, the tall gene is the dominant version. So we use a capital T as its symbol. Short gene is recessive. So although you might think we would use a lowercase s, we don't usually. Guess what we use?
Lowercase t.
A lowercase t. So there's three, if we are talking about a pea plant, it gets two genes for its height, one from each parent. There's three possible combinations you could have of genes. What are the combinations that you could possibly get? 7? Well, we're talking about T's now. So could it get what combination? Well, they're all T's, but big T, big T? What else could the plant have? Big T, small t? That's the same. Or small t, small t. Those are the three possible combinations you could have. Okay? So we have some words we use for them. Homozygous dominant. Homozygous means that you have two of the same genes and they're both dominant. For example, big T, big T. Or you might end up with homozygous recessive people. What letters would that have? Little t, little t. Or heterozygous. What do you think that means? And one of each. The prefixes here, homo means same. Hetero means different. Yeah, hetero means like different or other, like troph, meaning food. So plants are autotrophs. We are heterotrophs. We have to eat different organisms to get nutrition.
Are we just using that as a...
Yes, because we're referring to tallness, so we use T's. We could, if we were referring to the color of the flowers, we might say purple flowers would be a P. Or if we're talking about Wrinkled seeds, we would use the W. So we could pick the letters we want to use. All right, so a couple other terms that are important. When we are looking at an organism, we can talk about its phenotype or its genotype. Phenotype is its sort of physical appearance. That's where the P, link those together, help you remember. So if I say the plant is tall, the plant is short, those are examples of its phenotype. Phenotype for a person might be, he has blonde hair, he has green eyes. Those are phenotypes. They're describing how the genes appear. We could also talk about the genotype. Talk about the genotype. We're talking about the genes that it has, the letters, the symbols. Like big T, little t is a genotype. Little b is a genotype. Just to go back for a minute and ask you a question. So, we said the height of pea plants is controlled by one gene, and there's two versions, tall and short. Tall is dominant, big T. Short is recessive, little t. So let's say we have a pea plant that got a big T gene from its mother plant and a big T gene from its father plant. What would this plant be? Tall or short? Tall. What about this one?
Short. In the middle?
Short. 50-50.
Oh, we're just saying everything. Who has an idea and is confident? And you think you actually know here. Mitchell, what do you think?
It's like a 50-50 being tall or short.
No? Caitlin? And the big T is dominant. This plant would be tall, just as tall as this plant. And the reason is that this big T, tall gene, is dominant. It covers up the recessive version, which doesn't show through. It's still there in the genes, but this pea plant is tall. It expresses the dominant gene. That's what dominant means. It can cover up the recessive form.
Does that mean if they're like the child would be short?
Whose child?
The plant's child.
Which plant?
The short is the recessive gene?
We'll get there. So could two tall plants ever have a short plant?
Yes. No. Yes.
We'll look at how that happens in just a minute. All right. So tell me about the phenotype. We're still going to talk about height of a plant. Tell me about the phenotype of this plant. Phenotype. It's tall. Tell me about this plant's phenotype.
Short.
Tell me about this plant's possible genotype.
T.
They're all T's. Got to tell me more. Big T, big T, or either one would result in a tall plant. How about this one? Because that's the only combination that gives a short pea plant.
Wait, so what if you did?
Hold on.
What if you did little t?
It doesn't, so that would still be tall. As long as it has one, usually we write the capital letter first, but you don't have to. But anytime you have one of the dominant genes, that's the one that shows through. So we are talking about pea plants here. So the genetics of human height are much different. So there are multiple genes that determine a person's height. You probably all know people that maybe have parents that aren't that tall, but they happen to be much taller than them, or vice versa. So human height and many human characteristics is not just a simple one dominant gene, one recessive gene. The pea plants are, and that's why they're a good example for Mendel's study. So you guys just were asking some questions about this. How can we predict what the offspring of two parents might be? We do it using this little diagram called a Punnet square. A Punnet square is a way for us to model what might happen if two parents had offspring. What are the probabilities that their offspring would have certain characteristics? So here's 3 examples. So I want to say I have 2 pea plant parents. I'm Gregor Mendel. I'm an Austrian monk. I'm getting pollen out of a paintbrush. And I take a little bit of pollen from a plant that's homozygous dominant, has 2 big T genes. And I fertilize a plant that has 2 little T genes. It's homozygous recessive. And I grow this new seed, and I have a plant. Well, what is that plant going to be like? Is it going to be tall? Is it going to be short? What's going to happen? A Punnet square allows us to predict. The way we use a Punnet square is we take one of the parent genes and put them on the top. Separate them. Big T, big T. We take the other parent, put them on the side. Little t, little t. Then I combine to fill in each box. So this box is going to get a big T from up here, a little t from there. What's this box going to get? Big T, little t. Big T, little t. All of these boxes happen to come out the same. So in my experiment, what this is showing is what is the probability of having certain offspring. So what is the only genotype I come up with? Genotype. All 100% big T, little t. So when I grow this plant after my experiment, what's it going to be like? It's going to be tall. Could it be short? No. There's only one possibility in this example. All right. Okay, well, I do another experiment. This time I'm going to take a heterozygous parent, big T, little t, and crossbreed it with a homozygous recessive parent. Can you set up the Punnet? Some of you already did. Set up the Punnet square, fill it out. It's the Reginald Punnett, is the gentleman who came up with this concept. So we put one parent on top, big T, little t. We put the other parent on the side, little t, little t. Just one letter goes in each area. I fill in each box. All right, let's, what do I get here? Emma. Maddie. Olympia. Balthazar. Okay, so now I end up with some variation. What are the genotypes I ended up with in my offspring? Olivia? Yep, and what percent of each? Yeah, 2 out of the 4 boxes are each. 50% each. What that means, if I had these 2 parents, I did my little experiment, I grew it, I would be 50% chance that it's going to be, what are those? Tall, and a 50% chance it's going to be short. Now, keep in mind, these are just probabilities. They're not guarantees. For example, I could do this 3 times, or let's say I did it 4 times. Probability says, what should I get? 2 tall and 2 short. But could I get 3 tall, 1 short?
Yes.
Could I get 4 and 0?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how probability works. You could expect certain ratios, but it doesn't always work out that way. You have 3 children. What are the chances that they're going to be all boys? Nope. You guys ever study probability?
No. 100%.
20. All right, let's do this last one. You guys do this one on your own. Two heterozygous parents. So, go ahead. Complete that Punnet square and fill in the bottom as well. All right. So when I do my Punnet square, what are the possible genotypes that I get? I want to hear from some new individuals. Maddie. Yep. Yep. Correct. I end up with all three possibilities here.
I read it wrong.
What percent of them will be big T, Maya? 25%. Jake Rockford. How about big T, little t? Garcia. How many little t? Correct. 25, 50, 25. I mean, for two reasons. And so then what phenotypes do I end up with? Max?
It's 75% chance of being tall and 25%
Correct. Which are tall?
all of them except for that.
All except for this one. So you guys earlier asked a question, I asked, is it possible for two tall plants to produce a short plant?
Yes.
Is it possible for two short plants to produce a tall plant?
No. You said yes before.
So it's the first question.
Oh.
Not two short plants. If you do a Punnet square, all you have to work with are what? Little t's. So they're all the offspring are going to be. Good. You guys seem to get this. All right, let's just do another example of a different trait. So peas come in two versions. They can be yellow or green. Yellow is actually the dominant color. So I have two pea plants that I'm going to do my little crossbreeding experiment with. One, tell me the word for this genotype. I'm just saying the first thing that pops into your head. What is the word for this genotype? Heterozygous. What is the term for this genotype? Homozygous recessive. Good. We just found homozygous means two of the same. Recessive means two of the same recessive genes. Heterozygous means one of each. All right, complete the Punnet square, please. Now, hold on 1 second and pause. I want to give you a hint. When doing Punnet squares, with some letters, people get confused about uppercase and lowercase. Like, Y is one of them. Here's what I do. I always make my big letter like an uppercase printed, and I make my lowercase a lowercase cursive. So I can always tell. Because sometimes people like do it quick and they're like, oh, and then they do it and they're like, okay, well, like, I don't know which are big Y's, which are little Y's, so it's easy to get confused. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's where I got the big like the yellow line was like a straight line, and the someone yelling at me. And they're saying, no, do the capital. And I didn't know what it was.
All right, go ahead and finish this Punnet square.
Or you can make it really small.
Yeah, you can make it really tiny. It's just easy to get confused sometimes. Like this, I don't know. I can't tell the difference between the two.
Can you tell mine? I do my Y's like that anyway. My lower line.
Yeah, but they're getting close. These are hard to tell. All right. Fill in the genotype and phenotype as well.
Is one of them like only like 2 Y's?
They're all
And then
right.
they have all the like, big Y's. So that color and they have
All right. So one parent goes on top, one on the side. Combine to form each box. All right, what genotypes are possible in this experiment? Olympia. Yes, big Y, or little y, little y. Heterozygous or homozygous recessive. In this case, we end up 50% each. What are the possible phenotypes? Yeah, so what percentage? Not tall or short. We switched. Yellow or green peas. 50% yellow, 50% green.
ran away. Wait, so
Yes, it says here yellow is dominant.
So Y and what? Capital Y, like
Capital Y, lowercase y? No.
No, capital Y, capital Y, say 1, right?
All right, you guys seem to got this, no problem? All right, let's watch this video quickly.